Alright, so you guys are going to get a little bit of behind the scene action. The reason why I'm doing this is so you guys get a first person expression how the iPhone 15 Pro looks against the previous iPhone 14 Pro. This is a stainless steel body, and this happens to be the black color choice, and this one happens to be the titanium, new titanium, but in that cool blue color. And when you compare the two side by side, I really do like this blue. This is more like a midnight blue color, by the way. Not purple. It doesn't have those purple flakes like a Nintendo DSi, if you guys remember those. But this is like a dark blue. It's really amazing looking. Now, first impressions when I first picked up the phone, when they're flat on the surface like so, when I first pick it up, the lighter titanium body is noticeably lighter than the previous stainless steel body of the iPhone 14 Pro. And believe it or not, the bezels are also thinner as well, because if we actually compare the two bezel sizes, you can kind of notice it, but it is indeed thinner, which is impressive because unfortunately we don't have additional screen real estate. But when you put the two like on a flat surface, leveled, that's animating, it is noticeably taller. The 14 Pro is taller, as you can see right here. And yeah, the 15 Pro is slightly shorter. But that's actually a good thing because it's easier to grip than ever before. And more comfortable too, as you may imagine, because the bezels, or not the bezels, the like edge design that's going on right here, this is sharp and painful. This is actually like kind of like holding it on a like smooth stone pebble. Now it is a fingerprint magnet, both of them are, even though they're brushed stainless design that they have going on here versus like the gloss stainless steel, still noticeable like fingerprint marks you can see right here, especially down here. So they're both a fingerprint magnet, unfortunately, especially the display. But displays wise, like hardware, both feature the Face ID, of course, something we've been seeing Apple do for like the longest time. They both feature a dynamic island, which works phenomenal. It's really amazing. I like seeing these notifications right here, like whenever I'm having a clock or something like that running in the background, an app. And the new silent switch, I really do like this action button over the silent switch because look at this. If I want to, I could just long hold and it will launch the camera app, where I could still use the lock screen on the 15 Pro, but just giving you an example of how that works. And since we're talking about the camera, I am going to go back and talk more about the action button. But in terms of software features, both are on iOS 17, and even the 14 Pro received some of the massive features that you see right here. On the top portion, you have the Max RAW now. But if we go into like the ×1, you see it says 12 megapixel. The iPhone 14 didn't receive this function because if we go into the settings real quick on both these two devices, sorry for having this one on dark mode, but if we scroll down to camera and we click on format, there's a photo capture option on the 15 Pro and it's not there on the 14 Pro. And that's the photo mode, the capability to compress the image from the previous 12 megapixel by default to now 24, which gives us more data to edit and such. That is not available even on a 48 megapixel iPhone 14 Pro. Just something I wanted to go ahead and talk about. But back to the action button. So the way you put your device on silent, notice how it has like the silent icon right here, is in Control Center. You just tap on it right here and it'll give you haptic feedback that your device is on silent, where previously there was none of that in the Control Center. There was no way to turn it into silent without actually physically hitting the switch, which gives you the same exact haptic feedback like the 15 Pro. So that's how you put the 15 Pro on silent, and that gives you that new icon right above here. Now the USB-C port, this is actually game changing, especially for content creators, because I've tested this out already and I'm able to plug in external hard drives so long as it's the appropriate connector, USB-C of course. I'm able to go on my folder app and actually have full access to that hard drive, even SD cards and flash drives that I connect to with this smartphone. It's extremely similar to what you expect to find on an iPad that supports USB-C. So that same functionality where you can transfer data without having to airdrop it to your device, the experience is actually really brilliant. Again, I prefer hardwire like transfer data like this, especially for the large file over airdropping stuff. And in terms of reverse charging, the iPhone 15 does have that capability where you can just plug it in via USB-C to whatever device you're trying to charge. Apple demonstrated this with the USB-C AirPods. You could do the exact same thing with Lightning port AirPods. So long as it's the USB-C to the Lightning port, you can charge your AirPods just fine. And fun fact, just out of curiosity, if you plug in your iPhone to an iPhone that's Lightning, so long as you're using the USB-C to Lightning cable, it will actually charge the other iPhone, and it works vice versa too. But of course, you have other charging methods like MagSafe or wireless Qi charging in general. You always have that capability. But this feature is more useful on the 15 Pros due to the fact that it's reported to have a larger battery. So battery life is slightly better on the 15 Pro than it could ever be on the 14 Pros. And that's pretty impressive, again, due to the fact that the 15 Pro is noticeably lighter. Now in terms of screen brightness, both can go really bright. They're almost identical. The flashlight, they're using the same hardware, it looks like. No difference here whatsoever. Another thing that Apple added on the 15 Pros is there's a new coating on the camera lens itself, because there's less glare from sunlight while taking photos and videos when you compare it against the iPhone 15 Pro. There's more glare reflection off of that. The 15 Pro has noticeably less, which is something I'm really truly happy about. Now the 15 Pro does have that Apple Watch capability where you can use precision tracking. Unfortunately, it's not compatible on like the Series 8 or the Ultra or older Apple Watches. It's only on the new Ultra 2 as well as the Series 9 that has this capability feature, because both devices need to be utilizing the latest ultra wideband 2nd generation chip. So the 15 does have that ability, it just needs to be paired with the latest Apple Watch, unfortunately. But aside from that, is it worth coughing up $1,000 again for the iPhone 15 Pro? No. In all honestness, no, as the majority of these big features that we receive are all found on iOS 17, including the new camera improvements, minus the 24 megapixel photo shots. But dynamic island, everything is honestly the same. The thinner bezels, yeah, that's impressive, but it's so little, it's not gonna be like a massive deal breaker. So if you're coming from 14 Pro, I'll hold off until like 3 more years or so to upgrade if you really want to. But I'm not going to stop you, because I know there's some people who just want to have the latest and greatest. So by all means, go for it. But if you're an iPhone 11 user, or maybe you have an older iPhone, that's when you may actually want to consider upgrading to the latest 15 Pro. Especially what Apple did recently, because the iPhone 10 no longer is compatible on iOS 17. So support on that phone is now gone, unfortunately. So something tells me, since that was a 6-year run with the iPhone 10, the iPhone 11 is obviously next. So if you have an iPhone 11, maybe you may want to consider upgrading to the iPhone 15 Pros. If you can, I would recommend just waiting until last minute until the iPhone 16 Pro is released. iPhone 12 or newer, again, I don't see the value here. You still have LiDAR sensors, especially if you're upgrading from a Pro model like the iPhone 12 Pro. You have all those modern day sensors. Face ID, yes, you're missing the dynamic island, but you're not missing much other than just a nifty tool to have. But it's not really a deal breaker. It just tells me it has a hard time reading my Face ID, see? But you could basically figure that out on your own with the regular notch iPhone. And then if you're wondering why I didn't go with the iPhone Pro Max, well, the 6.1 display is right there on the sweet spot for me. Anything bigger would just I'll have difficulties fitting it in my pocket, and it will just look unusual. Yes, I do lose the times 25 digital zoom as well as the times 5 zoom, but if we launch these two camera apps real quick, both of these Pro iPhones can go up to 3 times zoom, and if you pinch and zoom, you could go up to 15 easily. From my understanding, the iPhone Pro Max can go up to 25 zoom, and at that point, the photo is just unusable. But definitely is useful to capture like license plates or something like that in case of an incident. But from my experience, if I ever have to get really close to something, it's a phone. I just get really close to something. If I need to, I'll use a camera that actually is used for zooming, like my Sony DSLRs. Now, before we end this video, I do want to give a special shout out to Pataka for sending us these cases. These are their new design cases for the 15 Pros, which is also available on other iPhones, but this is like the latest design. I really do like this camera hub. This isn't a sponsor ad or anything like that. I just want to feature their latest product because this is what they send us. And I like the button response as well as the nice little lip raise around the display. giving the iPhone maximum protection, and of course that aramid fiber material that gives it like a carbon fiber look, feels super soft to touch in the hands. If you're curious to find out more about their cases, I'll have a link in the description down below. Other than that, if you'd like to watch more, highly recommend checking out this video over here, especially if you're on iOS 17, where I go through all the hidden features and some nitty gritty cool tips and tricks you definitely need to know about to really utilize that new firmware update to its full potential. Anyways, thanks so much for watching.